I'm going to attempt to drive this completely normal electric family hatchback 3,000 kilometres all the way coast to coast across Australia. And yes, that means driving straight through the centre of the outback, one of the most inhospitable wildernesses on Earth, in an electric car. Nothing can go wrong, can it? The car I'm using is a humble Kia EV3 in the base spec Air trim, which starts at 33 grand back in the UK. We have allowed ourselves the £3,000 long-range battery upgrade, which adds 95 kilos in weight, but should boost range from 435 to 600 kilometres. But I can't deny it's daunting facing down the Stuart highway in a 201 horsepower front-wheel drive box on standard eco road tyres. Okay, right, we better get cracking because there's only 5 days to go till our return flight. So we're at Adelaide's Kia dealership right in the south of Australia. We have our EV3. They've very kindly charged it for us overnight. And first bit of good news, have a look in here. The range computer is estimating 640 kilometres. This car's only claimed to do 600 kilometres from the factory, and the maximum possible, if I was to really hypermile it, is nearly 750 kilometres. So maybe this is going to be easier than I think. Anyway, come with me. We're going on Top Gear's biggest electric car adventure ever. So like me, you're probably wondering, why are you doing this to yourself? Look, it's 2025 and EVs are no longer these cars of the future. They're totally normal, they're completely mainstream, and yet the conversation around them is still range, charging times, charger reliability, the infrastructure. It's all still way too much of a pain in the backside, no matter where you live, frankly. So we were thinking, it's about time we took a normal EV with a normal amount of range on a mighty road trip across a fascinating country, because surely it's about time that was an easy thing to do. Surely this shouldn't be a nightmare. Job one is to exit Adelaide, and traffic's flowing nicely. Never know it was rush hour. I'm getting used to the EV3. I really like this feature I've got on the dashboard, which gives me a best and worst case scenario for the range. So that sort of 400 kilometre swing either way could be really good intel for later on when we're out in the sticks and we're figuring out which charging station we think we can make it to. Now you might just be able to see in the side of shot here, this is our support car. So yes, I'm not doing this completely on my own, but there's a very good reason that we need to have a big V6 diesel Ford SUV with me. We're shooting photography for Top Gear magazine, topgear.com, so we need all the photography gear. We're doing a video, as you obviously can see, so we need all the videography gear to go somewhere, and that would fill up this car pretty quickly, especially with the photographer and the videographer themselves. The water, the spare tyre that we need, EV3 doesn't get one as standard, so we've lobbed one in there to be sensible, and that will also be our tow car if things really do end up going wrong. I also think it might be useful to slipstream. In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tuck in behind him. He's punching a hole in the air. Oh yes, this is great. Saving range already. So while the car was settling in fine, as the scenery began to turn to desert, I decided to go shopping for a bit of outback wardrobe. That killed some time during charging stop number 1 at Port Augusta, 3 hours and 310 kilometres north of Adelaide. You're thinking, oh dear, only 300 kilometres, this is going to take you weeks. Don't worry, we're stopping a little bit more often early on in the journey because, well, there's a bit more infrastructure down here. In the south, we've got these 200 kilowatt fast chargers, lobbing a bit of charge into the car. It's still over 50% battery, but it just means we can top the battery up a bit and keep our average speed
high. So mostly so far so good. Only problem is we've got a cracked windscreen already because a passing truck chucked up some grit and it's damaged it. Keep an eye on that, but otherwise pretty happy. The thing about the Outback is it's so vast. How do you even know where it starts and stops? Oh, right. Makes sense. We have had to leave behind modern technology and go to the car sat nav. Normally I'd never use that, but can't use Apple CarPlay, can't use phone nav because we have no signal. That says 140 kilometers to go to our next charging stop. We've got well over 220 Ks in the battery, so no range anxiety there. That means I can tell you about South Australia. That's the state that we're in at the moment. So South Australia has a population of 1.8 million people who share a landmass of 1 million square kilometres. That's like the population of central Paris living in an area 3 times bigger than all of France. It's just a massive load of emptiness. Which meant no traffic or delays on our way to our luxurious overnight stop and charge at Spud's Roadhouse in Pimba, 482 kilometres from where we set off this morning. A successful first day. Morning, welcome to day 2, nice and early, got a beautiful sunrise. It's just after about 7:30 in the morning and we've got a lot of kilometres to cover today. And I've already taken a detour off the Stuart Highway, just a few kilometres up here to RAAF, or Royal Australian Air Force, Woomera. Because this space, as you can see from their rather excellent open air museum, was basically the home of kind of British and Australian rocket testing during the Cold War. Racing the Soviet Union to put satellites in space, making the scariest intercontinental missiles possible. That was all being tested here, and this town around me is where everyone on the base lived. In fact, if you want to know just how isolated it is out here, we're going to go past a place shortly called Maralinga. I don't know why I'm pointing, I'm guessing it's that way. But Maralinga is where the British test fired their nuclear bombs in the 50s. It's so big out here, they set off nukes. Anyway, quick look around and then we're going.
I could look at old jets all day, but it made sense to rack up the mileage before temperatures got toasty. And it wasn't long before I came across another reminder of the sheer vastness of the Outback.
Funny place for a zebra crossing, this, isn't it? Yeah, you see, this is because, as you probably guessed from that sign back there, we're not just on a road anymore, we're now on a runway.
One of the sections of the Stuart Highway designated as landing strips for the Royal Flying Doctor Service, the Outback's plane ambulance.
The official protocol is that the police will come here and close the road and then the plane can land, but the official guidance does say, you know, these are big distances, the police might not actually get here quite in time, so when you're on this section of the Stuart Highway, you've got to keep an eye in the sky.
No air traffic today though. No traffic anywhere really. So by lunchtime we'd made it to the last rapid charger I'd see for 2 days and I had a big decision to make.
Okay, this is charging stop number 3 in Cooper Pedy. I'm probably saying that wrong. And this is where things start to get a little bit serious on the whole range front. You see, we started yesterday, as you know, in Adelaide, and then we had a nice easy trip up to Port Augusta, and that's where the Stuart Highway started, and we are now here, Cooper Pedy. But the next basically decent charger is way up here at this junction in a place called Gan. That is 480 kilometers north of where we are now, and the best range that we've seen from the car is just over 500. And with it getting hotter, with using the air conditioning more, and with there just being no regen opportunity at all, that is going to be a real challenge on range. There is a charger midway that we could use, but it's like a 7 kilowatt piddler. It's rubbish. We'll have to stop for hours and hours and hours, and it'll only add a tiny thimbleful of charge. We want to avoid that, and we want to get towards Alice Springs. So yeah, it's getting serious, but on the plus side, it's starting to look like we're on a road trip. Look, our car is actually getting dusty.
But in the searing afternoon temperatures, the EV3 just wasn't promising enough range to make it to Gann, which called for emergency aerodynamic upgrades. And for the first time on the trip, switched the AC off. This was the single most uncomfortable drive of my entire life. It was well over 40 Celsius in the car. I was drenched in sweat with an average speed down to below 60 kilometers an hour. It felt like the Outback was fighting back against the plucky, puny little EV3. The Hypermiling did the trick on conserving power, but even when the sun went down and we made it to Gann, things weren't about to get any easier.
So we knew this would happen eventually, didn't we? Had a brilliant day, seen some unbelievable scenery, incredible starscape. The EV3's been even more efficient than we thought. Still got 20 k's of range in it as we arrived at our overnight charging stop, and the charger's busted, despite saying that it works online. We've rung the helpline and they've said we can't connect remotely, so good luck. I have literally no idea what we do now.
It seemed like we were helpless, and our journey was at an end after only 1,300 kilometers. But after I'd had a little cry, our genius photographer Dean had the idea to use his camera lens blower stress toy thing and lots of cloths to wipe as much red Outback dust out of the charger as possible. And
yes!
Unbelievably, it worked! We were only drawing 35 kilowatts, but the Kia would have a full battery by morning. Until...
Okay, so this is a joyous moment, but also awkward. About, 30k ago, we all overtook a Tesla, and we've got to the charging spot first. Finally got it working, having cleaned it, and now we've got a 2.5 hour charge to do, but the Tesla's just arrived, and he also wants to use it. What is the EV etiquette here?
Luckily, this being Australia, the friendliest country on Earth, Josh, the Model Y owner, understood our predicament and was very happy to wait. He even gave me some useful advice on road tripping EVs, pointing out chargers to avoid and explaining that the Stuart Highway is the worst section for reliability in the country. He's been all around the coast and never had this much trouble with chargers. As the road trains rumbled on into the night, we left him to plug in and found somewhere to sleep.
Good morning. New day, new t-shirts, but quite a lot happened last night. So we charged to 45% in the Kia, just enough to get it to Alice Springs, our next stop. Had the idea of getting up nice and early this morning, taking the car back over there and carrying on with the charge, except, of course, the charger is bricked again. Completely blacked out, busted, can't be used. So yet again, we have just enough kilometers in the battery to get us to our next charging stop. Time to get on the roads. It's a beautiful morning, but yet again, I'm stressed. I suppose I should really talk a little bit about the car I'm driving. Now, I know an EV3 is not a Bugatti or a Koenigsegg or any of the unobtainium hypercars you can see on the Top Gear channel, but we like cars like this. We like cars that unpretentiously do a job. This is an electric car that's not trying to be too futuristic. It actually feels quite Volkswagen Golfish in the way it goes about its business. It's got very good ergonomics, it's exceedingly comfortable, considering the kilometers we're covering. The fact that I have no backache, no numb backside at all, no crick in the neck, that's a real credit to this. I think it's because
doesn't feel like a small car. It has a big car feel. Some of that is the lack of wind noise. Some of it's the very assured ride. This is way, way more professionally damped than a Tesla Model Y. But there's something a bit intangible about it. It's not like it's slathered in aluminium and carbon fibre in here. It doesn't feel expensive, and yet there is this sort of solidity and maturity to the car. It's a very reassuring little block to cart yourself around in. So I'm not saying it's racked with personality, but it does go to prove when you have an adventure with a car, when it's you and the car versus the elements, when you have a big journey and you really bond with it, that's what makes the difference. That's what gives a car a connection, not what kilometers it does out of the battery or how many pixels are in the touchscreen. It's the journey it takes you on. That's not hopelessly emotional. Maybe the heat is getting to me.
The heat really did bite during this 200-kilometre stint to Alice Springs. I longed for the air conditioning and cursed last night's charger for breaking down. Mile after mile of straight, flat roads. If you didn't have an EV, you'd be tempted to go flat out. But there's also a monument just up here to why you shouldn't.
Now, for the longest time, the Stuart Highway here has had no speed limit. It's been totally de-restricted, but these days it's a flat 130km/h limit. And here's a tragic reminder why. In around 1994, someone who had seen the film Cannonball Run about a load of supercar owners charging across America on a time trial thought, that looks like a great idea. And we've got the perfect road for it here. So let's host an event, invite a load of people with fast cars to, well, tear along here. And on the 24th of May, 1994, a Japanese chap in his Ferrari F40 lost control just here, left the road and hit a marshal's post, killing two marshals who were waiting there, himself and his passenger.
Respects duly paid, the EV3 made the final push for its lunch break.
Right, we have made it to Alice Springs, basically the capital of the Outback, and the trip has just ticked over 1,500 kilometres. So we are officially now over halfway, but wow, was that way more of a challenge, or frankly a nightmare, than it needed to be. And it all stemmed from that situation you saw last night, where the charger at GAN didn't give us as much power as we were hoping for, and then as soon as it was working, we had to jump straight off it to let someone else use it. So the Kia was only up to 45%. We were confident that would be enough to get us here, but only just. I rolled into here with 4% battery remaining. I've had no air conditioning for the past hour and a half, so today's clean t-shirt is a bit of a distant memory. And even when we got here, the NRMA charger put up a fight. We've actually managed to activate it using the ChargeFox app. So there's a top tip for using an EV in Australia. Definitely stick to ChargeFox stations and ChargeFox apps because they're much more reliable. Anyway, we currently have 1 hour, 21 minutes of charging time, and I'm keen to explore this oasis in the middle of the Outback. So, see you in a bit.
Only problem was my jet-lagged, utterly dehydrated brain had failed to remember it was a Sunday afternoon, so everything bar one souvenir shop was closed. Onwards.
So Alice Springs is in the rearview mirror. I'm just trying to get my head around the fact that that tiny little town with a population of 25,000 people, which is, you know, half the attendance you'd get at a medium-sized English football match, that's the biggest settlement we're going to see on this entire trip between Adelaide and Darwin. There is nothing now, anything close to that size for the next 1,500 kilometres until we get to Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territories. Just amazing.
The evening stint was a 300-kilometre trip to a roadhouse with a charger at Barrow Creek, to the same hotel that inspired the horror movie Wolf Creek.
No, I'm not kidding. The charger worked, but it was being powered by a deafening diesel generator in a tin shed. Still, that drowned out the footsteps of the cockroaches. We decided to get a very early start, and we're on our way in time for a majestic outback sunrise. This was day 4. 1800k down, 1200 to go, no phone signal, an increasingly ripe smelling Kia, but I was loving this journey through the desolate heart of Australia. Next stop, geography class.
Of course, one of the great things about any road trip, whether you're using an EV or not, is just the random stuff that you didn't expect to see along the way. These are the Devil's Marbles, massive lumps of granite that over millions of years have been eroded into weirdly balanced spheres. Well, anyway, that's what they say. Personally, I think it was the aliens, but since this is Top Gear and not National Geographic, time to get back on the road.
We were just about to leave when we came across this. Meet Brad and his Holden Sandman panel van. Of course, the Aussies have a better nickname for it.
So Brad, I don't know if we're allowed to say this on camera, but I think these were called shaggin' wagons back in the day.
Back in the day, absolutely, yeah. The old Holden shaggin' wagon.
So has this got a dirty history then, this van?
This car does. It's got 2 confirmed divorces under its belt and possibly 1 kid.
And where are you heading with it now?
I'm actually heading to South Australia, which is where this car was originally built, back in 1976.
Fantastic. Proper piece of all-time Aussie car culture, this.
It gets a big thumbs up and a wave the whole way down the highway, grins from ear to ear. It's awesome.
Like, can I interest you in a swap?
No. No offence. Very nice, but I'll keep seeing it. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Thank you, mate.
As Brad's V8 gurgled off past the marbles, I was in high spirits, which lasted about half a kilometre.
Yeah, inevitably, after just over 2,000 kilometres, the first tyres let go. Not sure when we went over a stone or whatever's caused it, but it's time to hopefully stick the gunk in. Hopefully that will hold it, and if not, we have to use our one and only spare tyre. Connect that to that.
Luckily, it was just a nail in the tyre rather than a full blowout, and the emergency foam did the trick. Useful, since the Outback doesn't have a flying breakdown service. My mistake at this point was forgetting to apply sun cream before leaping outside to deal with the puncture. Not smart, and the rest of the day was quite sore.
Okay, so sit rep. We started this morning at Barrow Creek at the Scary Hotel. We ran away and made it up to the amazing Devil's Marbles, and then just after that got a puncture, which cost us some time, but the foam is holding, and so we stopped here by this junction at 3 Ways Roundhouse for a very speedy charge. We're back up to 100% after just over an hour, really useful, and that means we don't have to hypermile for this afternoon. We're going to take a very quick pit stop at a slow charger in Elliot, and that means we can make good time all the way to tonight's overnight stop. That is getting perilously close to the top of this map. I am actually starting to believe it might be possible to drive a base spec, fully electric Kia coast to coast across Australia.
This was turning into a good day for Aussie motoring culture. I met a road train driver, Shaz, who was happy for us to drive alongside her truck and film it as long as it didn't wake her husband, who was asleep in the cab bunk. These machines are the kings of the Outback. 3 or 4 trailers long, regularly putting out over 700 horsepower and 2,000 foot-pounds of torque. They're 200 feet and 130 tons of pure Aussie grit, and I don't think they will be going electric anytime soon. But since I don't have a co-driver, I needed to pull over when it was time to sleep. Good night.
Well, that was the last overnight stop. From here should just be a 600 kilometre straight shot to Darwin with 1 charging stop. My tyre foam seems to be holding, but goodness me, it's roasting. Let's go.
Speaking of the temperature, the whole point of an EV is, of course, lowering transport emissions and being kinder to the environment. But driving electric in Australia doesn't mean zero emissions.
There is something that's bugging me. An electric car is only as green as the electricity that goes into it. Now, when we've charged up in the Northern Territory, as we were warned way down south, a lot of these places are off the grid. They're powered by diesel generators, and that means that so is the electric vehicle charger that we've been using. Fine. But then even if you take Australia as a whole, 2/3 of its electricity generation still comes from coal, and quite a large proportion of that is lignite, brown coal, and that is really dirty stuff. It's got more CO2 emissions, more sulphur, more nasties. Now, on a good day, about 1/3 of Australia's electricity generation comes from renewables, and that is increasing. They're building a lot of solar panels. We've seen loads of wind turbines, particularly in South Australia. So, like everywhere, they are working on it. But I don't know if I'd absolutely be comfortable calling this a green road trip.
However, the reliability of the chargers further north meant we could actually skip what we'd marked as our 10th and final pit stop. So while the car didn't need a rest, I did, which meant I could talk you around what had become my home over the past 45 hours.
Actually, make that 46 hours. I've just checked the trip again. There is a huge amount that I really like in here, and I've got one big bugbear, which I'll tell you in a moment. But on the whole, this is really well thought out for a modern car cabin, which, well, they're getting more annoying every day. This one isn't. Here's why. Number one, all this sort of thing. Physical buttons for temperature controls and fan speed. Yes, there's this silly panel here, which is actually obscured behind the steering wheel, but I've barely had to use that because I can mainly use the controls here. I've got shortcuts for menus on this bar. I've got a proper volume knob. Look at my steering wheel with no haptic buttons. It's all physical. At no point have I ever accidentally changed the cruise control settings or swapped the radio station, because it's just been designed by grown-ups. Same with my regen paddles. That's been really, really useful to have lots and lots of coasting when I'm on the straight bits, and then in the occasional drop into town, need a bit more regen. It's on the paddles. Makes perfect sense. It's also well put together. We're well over 3,000 kilometers now. We've been using this thing pretty intensely and absolutely living in it. And it's all held together really well. It's not wearing, despite us getting in and out with dirty clothes. And although you can tap this QR code down here or scan it, and it will tell you all about the recycled materials that Kia's use, all the fishing nets in here and the recycled plastic bottles on the carpet. It doesn't smell like a recycling factory, and for me, it feels more expensive inside than a lot of the European EVs. So that's good. The other thing is packaging, it's design. We were all told, weren't we, that in the glorious future of EVs, we'd have more spacious cars, we'd have flatter floors, and we'd have longer wheelbases, and we'd all have all this room to lounge around in. And sometimes I don't know where it all goes, but in this, it feels big, roomy and spacious, and there is so much storage. You've got this kind of peninsula here, and then all this here with the cup holders and all our snacks down there. Of course, that's the wireless charging bay, big door bins. It's all great. You can even hide stuff behind the screen. It does just bring me on to my one bugbear with it, and that's that this storage here and down here, it's all lined in hard plastic. So if you put your walkie-talkie or even the key in it, it rattles and buzzes as you go along. That's been a little bit annoying, but after 3,041 kilometers, that's the biggest moan I've got. It's not too bad, is it?
So the EV3 was doing itself proud, and it had started to look a little bit less like a lost Star Wars droid as we climbed ever further north and finally breached the outer suburbs of Darwin.
So the sun has just sunk over the horizon. There is an almighty thunderstorm brewing just over there, but traffic is building up, and I am starting to see a lot of signs for central Darwin. And that can only mean one thing.
This little car is that close. 3,150 kilometers in. I think we're gonna make it. So, yes, you can drive a base spec, completely normal family EV coast to coast across Australia via the Outback and enjoy, well, almost every kilometre. Though I have been massively helped out by the fact that the EV3 is a very clever, sorted little Kia. It's got this big grown-up kind of confident feel. It's very comfortable long distance and it's very, very efficient too when it needs to be. Now, I'm not going to pretend for a second that this journey wouldn't have been a heck of a lot easier and quicker if we'd not used an internal combustion engine car, because of course it would, but is the point of a giant continental adventure to get to your destination as quickly as possible? No, it's not what road trips are about. So, thank you to the people of Australia who really are as friendly as they're made out to be. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments if this has entrenched or maybe changed your opinions of driving electric cars very long distances, and let us know where you'd like us to take a bit of an everyday hero on an adventure next.